begin in child's pose. Bring your big toes to touch. Walk your knees out as wide as your mat. Lower your torso down and stretch your fingertips towards the front of your mat. Rest your forehead down on the floor. Lengthen your spine, breathe in. Big exhale. Downward facing dog. Lift your hips, tuck your toes, bring your hips up towards the ceiling and turn your body into an inverted V shape. My hands are shoulder width apart, maybe even a little bit wider. My pinkies are right at the edge of my mat. Spread your fingers wide and ground down into the four corners of your hands. The four corners of your hands are the knuckle of your forefinger, the knuckle of your pinky finger, and both sides of your palm by your wrist. But you don't want to be dumping into your wrists so that you're light on the front of your hand. You want to really press down, especially through the knuckle of your forefinger. I also like to press my fingertips down into the floor, which engages the forearm muscles here. And that will help protect our wrists as we move through our practice. My feet are hip width apart, and both feet are facing 12 o'clock, which means my second toe is basically pointing straight ahead in line with all the little lines on my mat here. I'm reaching my heels towards the back of the mat. They do not need to touch. And if my hamstrings are tight, I can bend my knees a little bit so that I can lengthen my spine more. Take a deep breath here. And a big exhale, Ujjayi breath. Walk your feet to the front of your mat. Ragdoll. Hold on to opposite elbows. My feet are still hip width apart, facing 12 o'clock. And here I want to ground down through the four corners of my feet. So the knuckle of my big toe, knuckle of my pinky toe, and both sides of my heels. A little softness in my knees allows me to hang and dangle my torso a little bit. If I straighten and lock out my knees, it might lift my torso, which is not nearly as relaxing and restorative. So I'm going to bend, let my torso hang. Release your arms. Now bring your big toes to touch. You still want your feet pointing at 12 o'clock, so your second toe pointing straight forward. Now rise all the way up to extended mountain pose. Stretch your fingers towards the ceiling, hands to prayer position. 1 Om to begin. Inhale. Om. 3 sun salutation A's. Mountain pose. Inhale, reach up. Fold forward, exhale. Halfway lift to a flat back. I can bring my hands to my shins here. Chaturanga as you exhale. I'm going to step back and lower down. Just a little baby bend in the elbows. Upward facing dog. Come to the tops of your feet. Straighten your arms. Pull your chest through. Downward facing dog. 1 breath here. Exhale. Step your feet forward. Halfway lift. Fold forward. Mountain pose. Fold forward. Halfway lift, long spine. Chaturanga, high to low push-up. And again, I'm stepping back and lowering down. Upward facing dog. Press the tops of your feet down. Press your toenails down. Downward facing dog. 1 breath. Exhale. Top of your mat. Halfway lift on your inhale. Create space in your chest. Fold forward. Mountain pose. We're starting our 3rd sun salutation A here. Fold forward. Halfway lift. Chaturanga. This time I'm going to jump back. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. One breath. Exhale. And on an empty is when you come to the top of your mat. Halfway lift is your inhale. Fold forward, exhale. Starting our sun salutation B's. These start in chair pose. I'm going to take a couple breaths here, although sometimes in class we just do one breath, starting to get into that flow, that metronome. But let's set up the pose here real quick. So both feet are at 12 o'clock and my big toes are touching. My knees are not squeezing into each other, although they can. It's not necessary. If you keep your knees slightly parted, like I can fit my fingertips between my knees, it just helps you to engage all the muscles of your legs independently. A little bit more into the quads, a little bit more into the glutes. So I'm sitting my heels back, my hips back, pressing into my heels because the tendency is to rock forward a little bit here. So I'm reaching my heels back, my hips back, stretching my fingers up towards the ceiling. My arms are a little wider than my shoulders here. Take another breath, fold forward. Halfway lift, chaturanga, so step or jump back. Upward facing dog, I'm going to do the tuck, 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 tuck to downward facing dog. Right side warrior one. So I like to step my left foot forward first, press my right foot forward at the top of my mat, reach my fingers to the ceiling. So my front foot is at 12 o'clock. My back foot is at 10 o'clock. My feet are not quite, it's not quite heel to heel alignment. There's a little bit of like a narrow train track in between my feet. My hip points, these bony points on the front of my hips, are working to square towards the front of the room, although they will be limited by tight hips. I have tight hips. So left hip is pulling forward, right hip is pulling back. My chest is facing towards the front of the room. Reach fingers up to the ceiling. Exhale to chaturanga. Plant your hands. Come up on the ball of your back foot. Step your back foot back. Lower down. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Left side. Right foot turns to 2 o'clock. Big step in, forward. Rise up. Set up your foundation. So both feet are grounding down into the floor. All four corners press down evenly. Especially the pinky toe side of this back foot. Tendency is for it to kind of lift up and dump into the inner arch side. So reach that back heel down. Engage the entire back side of your leg. Reach up. Hands to the floor. Chaturanga. Step back. Lower down. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. One breath. Top of your mat. Halfway lift. Fold forward. Chair pose. We're going to do one more sun B. One movement, one breath. Fold on your exhale. Halfway lift. Chaturanga. High to low push-up. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Right side warrior one. Inhale starts as you lift your fingers up to the ceiling. Exhale starts as you lower your hands back to the floor, and it continues all the way to your baby chaturanga. Upward facing inhale. Downward facing exhale. Left side warrior one. Inhale. Exhale. Upward facing. Downward facing. We're going to call that the end of our sun salutation B, moving into flip dog and side plank. We start with our right leg lifting, three-legged dog. To come into flip dog, bend your lifted leg, peel open like a dog peeing on a fire hydrant. You Keep peeling. You stay here, or you peel all the way up and over. Your right hand lifts up to the ceiling. Turn both of your feet now to point towards the back of the room. Your feet are at 12 o'clock facing the back of your mat, which I guess is really 6 o'clock. Point your feet to the back of the room. Draw your shoulder blades in towards each other to lift your chest up to the ceiling. Your right hand, your top hand, just simply reaches either up to the ceiling or it begins to reach towards the front of the room. Unflip by spinning around and come right into side plank. So since I was just on my left arm, I'm now going to switch my weight to my right hand. Turn my chest to face the opposite way. Stack my left foot on top of my right foot. Spread your fingers wide. Press the floor down with your right hand and press the floor down with your right foot. Stretch your fingertips up towards the ceiling. Take another breath. Chaturanga. Both hands to the floor. Lower down. Upward facing. Downward facing. Left side, flip dog. Bring your feet together. Lift your left leg. Bend your knee. Start to stack open. Lift your left hip open over your right hip. Stay here, or keep peeling open into flip dog. Turn both feet to face the back of the room. Open up your chest towards the ceiling. Reach your left hand now towards the front of the room. Look towards the front of the room. Drishti, your gaze. Unflip your dog. Come all the way back over. Right into side plank. So now I'm going to be on my left hand, looking towards you guys. Press down into the floor. From the floor, you kind of pull into your core here. Create the stability with your core. Flex your toes. So even though you're not standing on the ground, press out through your feet as though you are. Hands to the floor. Chaturanga. Upward facing. Downward facing. So that is officially the end of Awakening series. We're going to move into the Vitality series now, which starts with crescent lunge. Step your right foot forward. Reach your fingertips to the ceiling. I'm up on the ball of my back foot, like the little Barbie high heels that we talked about. My front knee stacked over my front ankle. Spread my toes out on the floor. Working towards bringing this thigh parallel to the floor, but that will be limited by the flexibility of your left hip here and the strength of your right thigh. So work in a place where it feels like you're getting some level of intensity, and be okay with the fact that you're not going to be a perfect 90 degrees in your front thigh. Hands come to prayer position and twist. So I'm twisting my left elbow over my right knee. My arms come into one line. My forearms are in one long line. I'm pressing my right hand down. It's kind of nice that I've got this visual of seeing myself on the video that I'm filming for you guys, because I can see that the long line starts at my right ankle and it comes all the way up through my right elbow. So that's where the force of energy is going. If you can picture some like arrows going do, do, do down towards the floor. So that is what creates my twist here. My hips are still pointing down towards the floor, but my torso is spinning open and twisting towards the wall that I'm facing, towards the screen. You can either stay here or open your arms. And so when I open my arm, I've got to push my left shoulder forward a little bit more to get there. So it's a deeper twist. You can also do this variation with your hand on a block under your left shoulder. And from here we transition into Warrior Two, and I want to challenge you guys to do it without using your hands. So you're going to spin your back foot flat, windmill your arms up and around. That uses lots of your hip strength here to get there. Warrior Two. So Warrior Two, now our hips are pointing towards the wall instead of towards the front of the room like they were for Warrior One. And once again, my heels are not quite in heel-to-heel alignment. They're a little bit wider. My right foot is a little bit more to the side of my right mat, the right side of my mat, my left foot a little bit more towards the left side of my mat. And instead of being at 2 o'clock, it's almost more at, no, not 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock, it's at 9 o'clock, about like 9:30 maybe. Again, my right knee is over my right ankle, stretching my fingertips to the front and back of the room. From here, keep your legs exactly as is. Reverse your warrior. Your left hand will slide down your leg. Remember, no gripping, no pressing, just a gentle slide. Reach your right arm up to the ceiling. Big side body stretch. Into side angle, extended side angle. So once again, I can use my block here. I like taking my hand to the outside of my right foot. And just like we practiced last night, it can be on the inside or the outside. It kind of depends on what expression you're wanting to create. I like the full extended version with my hand reaching to the front of the room, but you can also just do your left hand up to the ceiling like this. Look up towards the palm of your left hand. That's your drishti. Breathe, ujjayi breath. Hands to the floor. Spin my back foot up. Chaturanga. Upward facing. Downward facing. We take that to the left side now. Left foot forward. Crescent lunge. Set up your foundation. Hands to prayer. Twist to your left. So now you have a view of my shoulder blades here. So that's really helpful because a lot of times the tendency is to round forward and draw the shoulder blades away from each other. What I want you to think about here is drawing your shoulder blades in towards each other to really expand your chest open. And that comes a little bit less from your hands pressing together and more from just the muscles around your shoulder blades pulling your shoulder blades together. You can open your arms. And again, the shoulder muscles are the ones that are pulling my left arm back in space. Warrior 2. Spin up and around. Look, ma, no hands. Settle into the pose. Reverse your warrior. Extended side angle. So hand on a block, hand on the floor. You can also do elbow on the knee here. Hands to the floor. Vinyasa. Chaturanga. Upward. Downward. Come to the top of your mat. Halfway lift. Fold forward. Chair pose. Hands to prayer. And remember, these are a lot of the same principles as what we did in our crescent lunge just a little bit ago. So I'm twisting. And again, I've got that one long line coming from my top elbow all the way down into my heel. Notice my torso is pretty much parallel to the floor. My tailbone is lengthening towards the back of the room, and the crown of my head, which is this little like nubbin right here on the top of your head, it's not really a nubbin, it's just the top of your head, stretches towards the front of the room. You can open your arms here as well. Once again, same thing, pressing my arm into my knee helps me to move my left shoulder and my left ribs forward. Remember to check your knees. I can tell my right knee is starting to shift back, which means my hips are starting to turn. So keep your knees together, which will keep your hips turning down towards the floor so that the twist is a true twist happening in your torso. Good. From here, fold forward. Fingers to toes, forward fold. Peace fingers. Peace. Wrap them around your big toes. Palms face each other. Lengthen your spine, and then pull yourself down. So you want to press your toes down into your fingers and create a little resistance there so that you can pull yourself using the strength of your arms deeper into your forward fold. Feet are hip width apart. Elbows start to move towards the sides of the room as you deepen your forward fold. Yeah, link your breath in here. Inhale. Exhale, fold a little deeper. And release your toes. Bring your feet back together. Back to chair pose. Hands to prayer. Twist left. Keep your hips squared towards the floor. And use the strength of your left arm to press your chest open. Twist your chest towards the left side. Open your arms. Fold forward. Gorilla, Padahastasana, palms under your feet. So for this one, you might take your feet a little wider than hip width. Soften your knees. Slide your hands way under your feet. Your toes touch your wrist creases. Let your head hang. Wiggle your toes on your wrists a little bit. Lighten your heels. Like so much even distribution in your hands and your feet that you actually start to feel almost like you're going to tip forward. I've seen it happen in classes before. Take it into a little somersault. So you get to play with your balance a little bit, lengthen your legs. Since your toes are lifted higher than your heels here, it's going to be a deep stretch for your calf muscles too. Good, and then our final pose of the Vitality series, crow pose. I'm going to do my crow pose with a perch to get my hips high, palms flat. And so what we worked on a little bit last night is that when people want to get their palms flat, they lower their hips down. But the idea is to keep the hips lifted up higher than the shoulders. At this point, there's usually a little bit of moving around of the hands to see exactly where you need your hands to be able to nestle your knees up high on your triceps. I kind of scoop my arms under my knees to get them as high up there as I can. From here, press down into the floor, round your back a little bit, become a little teeter-totter. Squeeze your fingertips down into the floor, look forward. Notice I'm not looking back at my feet. I'm looking right around where the sweat is dripping off of my nose. Start to lift your feet up off the floor. It might just be one at a time. You might balance. You might just hang out here with your hands on the floor like this. No problem. For 3, press your fingertips down. 2, 1. Step back to downward facing dog or move through a vinyasa. That is the end of our vitality sequence. I don't know if you're dripping sweat like I am or out of breath, but that's the point of it. Vitality. It's waking us up, surging life throughout our bodies. Namaste.